Hello YouTube, it's Englentine here, and this is going to be the first of what I hope is a regular series I like to call I Love Comics, and I want to be a little more positive in this because talking about the SJWs and politics and such kind of gets a little negative, and I try to put a positive spin on it, but whatever. And this is going to be the 10 things I loved about the 80s. But I'm going to leave off The Dark Knight and The Watchmen because in any top 10 list of graphic novels or what came out of the 80s, you know these two are going to be on it. So really, instead of a top 10, you get a top 8. So those are default. Okay, they're great. Go read them if you haven't. It's worth it. Okay, the hype is real. So here are 10 other reasons to love comics from the 1980s in no particular order. Here we go. Number 10. Starting off with quite a strange one, The Badger. This is about a former Vietnam vet, and in the 80s we all thought Vietnam veterans were going to go nutso and shoot up a town or something, I guess. But in this case, he's got multiple personality disorder, and one of them is somebody who could talk to animals. This is a very violent book. It's kind of crazy, the writing to it. And it was just a lot of fun. And I don't know if... I know they tried to bring him back a couple of times in the 90s, and I don't think it stuck. But yeah, he was just a company's try for their own Wolverine character, and you had quite a bit of those in the 80s. But he was definitely one of the better ones. Number 9. So The Elementals is created by Bill Willingham, the guy who created Fables. Well, you have these 4 people. They were all killed in a way like one guy was killed by earth, fire, water, air, so forth, so on. And these elementals take over their body in order for them to fight this guy named Lord Saker, who built a machine that harnesses the powers of the earth, the 4 elements. So they all come together to do battle with him. It was a very good book. I hold the first 6 issues in high esteem, and I would put them up against a lot of the best of the 80s. Number 8. I remember I wanted to pick up the Jack of Hearts 4-issue miniseries as a kid because I saw him in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, and I thought that he had a really cool costume. I really did. And so when he came up, I was like, hey, I want to read about this guy. He looks cool. And it's strange. This alien race wants him to restart a sun. And I'm sorry, I'm going off memory. This is one of the books that I haven't read in a long time. But I do remember just loving this book so much and was surprised at the ending because he ends up reigniting the sun and leaving his family, which I thought, wow, that's kind of cool because usually you don't see heroes doing that kind of thing. They start and they end at the same point in some books and such. But this one wasn't like that one, and that's why I've always held it in high esteem. Number 7. Everyone brings up Frank Miller's Batman and Daredevil work. However, I always loved Ronin. That's not to say I didn't love the other stuff, but Ronin, either one, really, I mean, this was a good story, but it is out there. Bear with me. Okay, it starts off in feudal Japan, and there's a samurai who he doesn't have a name, and he is sworn to protect his master, and his master gets killed by a demon called Agat, and it's because Ozaki, the Lord Ozaki, his master and such, stole a sword, and the sword is powered by blood, and I forget what happens, but he ends up being transported into the future. Not now. It's not like it was like in modern day, but in actual dystopian future is what they call them nowadays, and this book is wonky. First of all, it's got a lot of that Frank Miller, it's kind of bad but good art that he does. But it's back when Frank Miller was a good writer also, before Sin City got a hold of him and screwed it up. However, if you want a deep book, a well-written, well-drawn book that's not like nothing else you see these days, check out Ronin, either way, it's a good book. Check it out. Number 6, Amazing Man. This, man, I have so many people just look at me weird when I try to tell them how good this book was. It ran for 12 issues. And it is not about any kind of superhero. It's about a crazy guy who dresses like a superhero, tries to act like a superhero around the neighborhood, and all the people who put up with him because he's a good guy. He's a good little man. And he has a roommate whose head is shaped like a dog. And there's nothing, I mean, it's people. And it's people being funny, doing funny things. And, yeah, it's got Batman on the last cover, but, you know, Frank Miller was hot and they tried to get a few extra sales. Sue him, what you going to do? Either way, check this book out, or at least a couple of issues. I know you can get all 12 issues for like $1 on eBay. So, you know, what do you got to lose? Try it out. It's a great book. Number 5, the Cloak and Dagger 4-issue miniseries. This was something. I mean, okay, Cloak and Dagger had already appeared a couple of times in Spider-Man, and I remember really liking these characters. But we found out their origin, we found out who they are, that they were kidnapped and drugged. I mean, it was like this this drug dealer was testing out drugs on people, forcefully testing out drugs on people, and they tried it with Cloak and Dagger, and they ended up getting superpowers. Cloak had this kind of a void, a darkness to him, and I remember he absorbed people into his cloak and took away their heat, while Dagger provided it. I wasn't really sure exactly what her power was at the time, but the thing is this miniseries dealt with a lot of serious stuff for the kind of comic book it was. I mean, well, you know, I was reading it when, what was that, 1985? So yeah, 85 was the miniseries. But anyway, it was really serious stuff, and I was very impressed with it. I loved it. Didn't care so much for the series that followed it, and then they completely pussed out and they took away the drug angle of their origin and they made them mutants. Yeah, that was just a bad idea. However, this 4-issue miniseries, it was so good. I remember at the time there was this aspirin scare, and Cloak and Dagger dealt with somebody poisoning aspirin, children's aspirin and such, which was going on at the time. So it was really timely. It was very, just very well written. Bill Mantlo wrote the miniseries. He also created the characters. It was very good. Very good book. Very good book. I want to read it now, as a matter of fact, just thinking about it. Number 4. This book was silly fun. I mean, it really was. It grasped onto the dying disco trend, and it ran with it, and I loved every minute of it. I mean, the Enchantress attacking her show at that point, and everybody's there. All the superheroes decided to go that same night to see it, and it's just this big free-for-all. It's almost like Dazzler is a guest star in one of her premiere issues, and that is, I mean, it was silly fun. I was kind of surprised that when she did fight Dr. Doom, and at one point she fights Galactus, and I was just floored by them. Like, okay, how? But they had her fighting Galactus, and it was just like I said, it's tons of fun. The dialogue is cheesy, but however, there was a graphic novel that I would highly recommend if you can find it. It's just thoroughly entertaining. But seriously, The Dazzler is just a book you should hunt down. And there's only 40 issues. If you wanted to get the back issues, you're not going to have any trouble with cost or anything, because I'm sure they're all in the dollar bins at this point. And I'm pretty sure you can find a run on eBay for probably $1 each or less. So it's not going to be a break the bank title. However, what it is, it's a lot of fun. So find it in either single issues or the trade paperbacks. You're going to have a blast with it. This is definitely a leave your brain at the door kind of story. Just don't put any thought into it, and you're going to have a great time. The Dazzler shows that any medium, be it music, movies, TV, or whatever, you can have your guilty pleasures. It's as simple as that. Number 3. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Crisis on Infinite Earths proves that DC Comics, especially at the time, trusted its readers. It's a very wordy book, but we stuck in. And I do have to admit, now this came at a time where I was really getting into comic book collecting, and I started really loving some of the major characters, Supergirl and the Flash. I loved the Teen Titans. I mean, just really good books, but I didn't know half the people that were getting killed at the beginning of this miniseries. It wasn't until the later issues when Supergirl passed and she got killed that I was like, oh my gosh, this is serious stuff. But oh wow, every month you just held on. And when Flash died, you know, everybody talks about the Supergirl issue, but let's see the impact of that this book had on the DCU. The Flash remained dead until the 2000s. And he should have still remained dead. I like the Flash books, but Wally West was a more interesting Flash than Barry Allen. This is an incredible miniseries. It should be required reading for all comic book fans. And I'm not being facetious or kidding or being hyperbolic. That is just the truth. Yeah, like I said, it's a little wordy, but it's action-packed and you will be on the edge of your seat all throughout. And it sucks that they tried to get rid of everything that this book changed during Flashpoint, and I'm glad they're bringing a lot of that stuff back. Number 2. The new Teen Titans, specifically the Marv Wolfman Teen Titans. This was an amazing book. I mean, this is really where you found that the teams just came together. There's some great books. Now, everybody talks about the Judas Contract, and for good reason, too. That was possibly the best story of the first 40 issues, and this is what I'm really talking about. However, there's so many other good ones. There's one where Wally West just writes a letter to his parents and talks about what happened, and I thought that was just such good writing. Such good writing. We get the drug issues that came about with the Runaways. We meet Starfire's sister, and that was a good one. The first appearance of Deathstroke. Not only that, but the second appearance in issue number 10, I believe, where we had the Puppet Masters and all that kind of stuff. This book was so well written, and it was such fun. And I think anybody would do themselves a favor to really hunt this series down. And I know they released them on trade paperback, so you can get the whole stories, and it is definitely worth it. The thing with the Hive, I believe that was the group that was after them all the time. It's just amazing writing. Amazing writing. And this is another one I want to go back and start reading again. I'm going to have to do a Teen Titans video just based on my excitement talking about it in this video. But hey, that's part of what makes these things cool. You start talking about, hey, you remember this, you remember that, and you're just thrown back into the fray back when, and it might just be because this is also when I was young and easily influenced, but I actually am one of those old people who say they don't make them like they used to. I really don't, I really believe that. I just think that they try to be way too serious these days, and even in the serious books back then, there was an element of fun. Pick this series up. And the number one reason I loved comic books in the 80s, for at least this video, because I know there's about 100 other things I left off, is Assistant Editors Month. I gotta say, I loved this month. We got just an array of comic books that they were funny, they were serious. I mean, it just ran the gambit, but what it was they took risks. I mean, the Avengers went on David Letterman. There was the Red Skull turned into MODOK. I mean, just look at these. Oh, by the way, there's America. Wow, okay. And I mean, just come on. It was just some good stuff. This was a prelude to her movie, Dazzler the movie, the graphic novel I told you about. Fred Hembeck and Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. These were some great stories. It was just a lot of fun. Just really, okay, this was shit. All right, it didn't win. There weren't winners all the time. Daredevil versus that Savage was not good. I just didn't care for that storyline. So they all can't be winners. What you gonna do? Still, there were some excellent stories released during this month. You had Aunt May becoming a Herald of Galactus, and Twinkies saved the day. Twinkies, of all things, satiated Galactus's hunger. One of my favorite stories from The Thing had this big knockout, drag-out, 20-page fight between The Thing and one of the lamest supervillains with big shoes, big powered shoes, and The Thing rushes into the Marvel offices and goes, wait a second, this is how it really happened. It really was a fight that would have lasted 2 panels. And even past all the silly stories, all the nonsense, there were some of the best comic books Marvel ever produced during Assistant Editors Month, like The Trial of Reed Richards. He had saved Galactus's life once when he came to Earth, but then afterwards Galactus devoured the Skrull planet, so he was kidnapped off of Earth and held responsible for the deaths of all those Skrulls. And that was just an amazing story. Very, very tense, very well written, very well drawn. Just one of the best things Marvel has ever produced. At the same time, Tony Stark was drunk. He had given the armor to Rhodes, so he was an Iron Man. So what is a neighborhood full of kids who try to be their own Avengers do? They have to kick out Iron Man because he's not an Avenger anymore. So you actually deal with a child looking up to a hero that is now an alcoholic. Of course, he doesn't know that, but it kind of mirrors it, where the kid goes off, gets into root beer and candy, and starts falling under bad influences. It's a very fun, very well done story. And the entire Drunk Tony Stark saga is worth picking up. However, The Kid Who Collected Spider-Man is known as a classic. And this came out during Assistant Editor's Month also. And this is a must-read for all Spider-Man fans, for all comic book fans. But this one should be, I mean, if you're to make a top 10 individual comic book lists, this has to be on it. I don't want to say too much and spoil it for those who haven't read it yet, but do yourself a favor and hunt this one down. You will not be disappointed. And there you go, 10 reasons why I loved comics in the 1980s. So, where was I wrong? Was there stuff you can't believe I put on a list? And I know there's about 1,000 things I left off the list. So what was your favorite? What would you put on a list? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, you want to see more, please click like, please click share, and subscribe to see more. And most importantly, thank you very much for watching.